Hello. Welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. Gianni is on his way. Don't despair. It's me and Bigman to kick us off. But we've got a packed show today. Fresh off the press, we've got team reveals against the obvious. We're going to be taking loads of questions from you guys. And of course, we're going to go through the injury nightmare that is FPL at the moment. How you doing, big man? Which injury dilemmas are you facing up to?
Yeah, hello, Dean. Hello, welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Thankfully, none, actually.
Hey.
I've gotten away with all those flags. I've somehow seemed to dodge them in my team this week. I have a few minutes risks in my team, though. I have Dango, I have João Pedro, uh, which, again, doesn't exactly feel ideal, but at least I guess it's better than having an injured player in my team. What about you?
Oh, well, Cody Gakpo is the one that's annoyed me the most because he's been a wasted asset for 2 weeks. And I thought finally I was going to get some value out of him. And then, well, it's 7 a.m. here in San Diego. And I wake up and the first thing I see is Arne Slot saying, Gakpo didn't train yesterday. Let's see if he can train today. A close call, not a long-term one. But he has had some pain yesterday. Let's see where he is today. I mean, he's not going to be playing, is he? Like,
no,
he's not going to be playing. Like, this is... Yeah, Arne Slot does not risk a player against Southampton of all teams, especially one that's going to be that important.
And you know what? The problem is that I think it's what, Game Week 28? I think we had a very similar discussion in Game Week 27 on the Friday deadline. In Game Week 26, which was again a Friday stream, we discussed this exact same thing at length, that, Gakpo was a doubt on whether or not he'd play. And this thing has been just lingering on for 3 successive weeks. So anyone who's kept him has been burned big time.
Exactly. And that's me, mate. That is literally me. He had a double game week, so I was hopeful of something from that one particularly and didn't get anything. I just don't know what to... I mean, I don't know. I've got 3 transfers to use this week.
I don't mean to rub it. I don't mean to rub it in at all. But I think it's a very unlucky outcome. But considering that some people had Slot as their system manager in that spell, some people have Alisson and double Liverpool defense. It's actually been really, really unlucky. I guess you can say that there was that 1 week where Gakpo got like 14 points and Liverpool ended up conceding. It was a 4-1 win. I forgot who was it again. I think it was against Leicester, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I remember I didn't have Gakpo that week, and that really stung me. Yeah, that was Ipswich actually in Game Week 23. So that was a week I assume you had him in that week, and you've sort of made your gains already. But now I guess they've been offset.
They've been offset, and anything, has now been offset. The gamble did not pay off to keep him. But yeah, in a time like this, I really thought Gakpo would have been a good asset. Unfortunately, it hasn't proven to be the case. Baragaz says, Dean, get him sold for Visser. Is that what you would do, big man? Would you bring in Visser for Gakpo if you were me?
I don't think there are too many forwards that appeal, if I'm being totally honest. And I think we need to have this discussion as well regarding the forwards, because when you look at, let's say, the likes of Cunha who are not playing, a lot of people in the market for Cunha replacement as well. So who do you go for? I think Chris Wood is probably the best replacement, because in a few weeks' time, you already got him. I know. But in general, I'm speaking in general. I know you have him. Yeah. But in general, if someone doesn't have Chris Wood, I think he's an excellent filler till the second time that people wildcard. Basically, if you look at the next 3 fixtures, home to Man City, then Ipswich, then Man United, home to Man United, I assume those fixtures are all right, and then you can just wildcard your way out of them.
Yeah.
In your position, there are not too many options. I think there's Wissa, there's
Strand Larson. Strand Larson's got Everton at home. Beto, he's obviously in that same game. Wolves away. So Beto and Strand Larson, honestly, were the ones I was kind of like tempted by.
Yeah. Christian is mentioning Evan Nilsson in the chat, and I think Evan Nilsson, we need to have a discussion about him as well. But it's difficult to get a read of his minutes immediately, because he could easily be eased back. I'm not sure whether he'll start. If I was to guess, I think he will, because he started in the FA Cup game, which means that he'll probably get minutes consistently. But then again, I can't be 100% sure. I think if you're willing to risk it, you can go there. Because, worst case scenario, if he doesn't start this week, he'll start the next 2. I'm pretty certain of that. In which case, having Evan Nilsson in place for Brentford at home and Ipswich at home could be really, really nice. So I think if Evan Nilsson is someone I would look at as a Chris Wood owner. If not, then maybe Beto, because Beto will play. The next two fixtures are all right, I guess.
Do you know what has annoyed me the most is that I've served a little while now of average game weeks, and I knew that was coming. Welcome, G, as you join us. I've had like at least the last 3 game weeks, I've just had to be like try and keep my head above water while like you used your assistant managerships. Last week was a bit of an average week generally. And I thought this week was when I could like get back to like getting proper points on board. And now, because of all these injuries, I don't know that I can do that. The good news is that I did also wake up to this quote from Eddie Howe about Alex Isak. He's fine. Yay. He came off on Sunday feeling fatigued, a tightness in his body, but he's trained every day this week. I wasn't expecting an update actually as positive as that. Can we trust him? What do you reckon, G?
Oh, hey guys. We can never trust Eddie Howe, but we have seen images of him training, albeit they were close-ups. It was hard to tell if he was training by himself or with the team. But there's a school of thought, knowing he hasn't played much in the last couple of weeks, and there's the most important game in like Newcastle season, effectively, the EFL Cup final. It feels like
50 odd years, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to think, were they in another final not that long ago? I feel
they lost a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Is it an FA Cup final to Man United or something? I can't remember. But feels like you'd want some minutes in his legs. Like, I do not expect 90 minutes by any stretch against West Ham. But I think we get either 60 or 30, and I'm still not sure which one. Big man, what's your take? Do we get 60 or 30 for Isak?
I think he starts. I mean, he's been training for the past 2-3 days, and I just think that the drop off between him and the next best striker, I guess that's Wilson or Sula, is so big that I think he'll probably play and just get taken off early. I'd assume that Howe would want to give him some minutes this week.
Yeah. And Dean, I was looking at the Premier League table yesterday, and I realised I've not actually spent much time looking at the table this season. But when you look at the Champions League spots, knowing Premier League is going to get 5, 4th and 5th, I mean 5th especially, there's teams like Brighton and Bournemouth, but obviously Newcastle, that will fancy their chances of getting Champions League football. And a game against West Ham for Eddie Howe is still a very big fixture, given the fact that the top 5, there is so much weight, so much on that for Newcastle as a football club.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the reason you do kind of lean towards, well, he needs Isak for this moment, because Newcastle do need to be in the Champions League. Like, if they're not, there is a good chance that Isak is going to leave Newcastle in the summer. So, yes, they definitely need him for the cup final, because with Anthony Gordon out, like, they were already really up against it for that cup final. But equally, they need to get into that top 5. They're already 2 points behind Chelsea. They're going to have plenty of opportunities over the next 11 games to make sure they can get in there. But, yeah, you can't let opportunities pass you by. Like I've let the last 3 FPL game weeks pass me by. So, I think he'll start. If there's this much confidence, if it was just a fatigue, then you can take him off rather than bring him on. That's where my hunch is with this one, and I hope it's right, because it means at least I've got 2 working forwards for this week.
Yeah, I only have, so I've got Cunha, Mateta, and Isak, and if Isak doesn't feature, I'm just getting 10 men. Like I don't want to sell Isak with my strategy. I can't sell Mateta with my strategy. And the Cunha spot is Haaland in 2 weeks' time. So I don't want to go 1 week punt on a Cunha replacement.
Free hit, mate. Just go change your whole team.
Well, I am doing that next week. That's game week 29, and then 30, and then 30. Yeah, it's Haaland comes in for Cunha. So yeah, it's 10 men for me if Isak doesn't feature.
Yeah.
But I think I'm all right about that. I mean, I know I've joined late, guys. So hello to everyone, and I'm sure those of you we've covered some bits already. Have we done any other injury news? Has there been any other big headlines from the press conferences today that you've seen, Dean? I mean,
we were just talking about Gakpo really at the start.
And Salah minutes as well need some discussion, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, he's still got to be captain, hasn't he? I mean, well, let's I guess, move on to that if you like. This captaincy debate, if there is one to be had. Are either of you seriously considering captaining Palmer instead of Salah?
I'm not 100% Salah. Are you, big man?
I am considering Palmer, if I'm being honest. I am close. I'm still on Salah, but the more I think about it, and I don't want to because the FOMO of going away from Salah, he will start. I mean, let's face it, there's no chance he's going to get benched.
Nope.
I think he'll start. I'm confident he does. In which case, if he plays 65, 70 minutes, he could get a hat trick, and that's the fare of going someone like a Palmer. But let's say if I knew that Salah was to get subbed off at the 70-minute mark right now,
Mhm.
I think I'd probably go Palmer if I had that information right now. But it is very tough. I mean, I've looked at the bookie odds, which I love doing. 83% chance Salah to score assist this week, 78% chance for Palmer, with Salah having the marginally better clean sheet odds. So that is in his favor. It's just that I need to figure out and assess the difference between their expected minutes. And I think that is the beauty of this game, that all of us will have different opinions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, look, 8 games without a goal for Cole Palmer. That's significant drought. And Mo Salah's the best player in the game and also probably the best player in Europe. Potential Ballon d'Or winner, best form of his life, going to have the best FPL season of his life. Even if he gets an hour against Southampton, surely that's better than a full 90 minutes of a guy that hasn't scored for 8 games. Surely.
I've got a confession to make.
Go.
I've not watched Chelsea in the Europa Conference League all season. Last night I popped my Europa Conference League cherry, and I treated myself to what was an absolutely dire performance. And Cole Palmer, by the way, was pretty much non-existent against opposition that, okay, I'd say that Copenhagen, one of the stronger teams left in competition, that's stronger than Leicester, but you expect Palmer to dominate that football match. He was anonymous, and actually he got hooked, which you don't see from Cole Palmer. He got 70. He didn't get 70 to be rested. He's barely played. Like there's not a huge amount of minutes in his legs. He got 70 because actually Chelsea wanted another goal. So yeah, I struggle to sell the idea of Palmer. I'm still not torn on Salah, committed fully on Salah though. That's the problem, because I don't think Salah's getting a huge amount of minutes either.
Yeah.
I think Salah's getting 80, 75, but there's no guarantee. I mean, we've done a poll. Get voting.
I have a counter to this. I mean, it's fine talking about Palmer's form, and Chelsea weren't great, but had Chelsea won 4-0 against Southampton pretty much last week, right? And Palmer wasn't involved, even though he had the chances. He should have scored. And even with the benefit of hindsight, I think that going for Palmer was the correct decision, because he had the chances against a terrible team. Leicester are equally woeful. I expect him to have the chances again. It's just that Salah's fixture this week is marginally better. The difference is going to be between their minutes. And I think had Palmer taken those 2 chances last week, I think it would be more of a discussion about the captaincy than we are having this week. And I just think it comes down to variance and not just form, because if an elite player is playing a team like Leicester or Southampton, that is the recipe for creating form. So I don't exactly buy this idea that Palmer's out of form, so he's not a captaincy option.
I don't know. Honestly, I wish they didn't have this easy fixture, because Cole Palmer, I just want him gone. I just don't want him in my team at the moment. But there's just that thing at the back of everybody's mind right now, is that he can't blank a game. Like, Cole Palmer has never been through a period like this, and we kind of see him as a mentality monster because he seems so unfazed by everything we've seen so far from him in professional football. And even when he was in the unders, like in youth team tournaments for England and stuff, the guy just takes everything just in his stride. So you wouldn't think he would be affected by this. And Maresca's, quotes today talk about how in training you wouldn't know that he hadn't scored a goal. You wouldn't know that it had been bothering. Like, it all seems fine. So it's really troubling. It's really troubling, because I
might captain Enzo. He's looking good, and I own Enzo. Like, Enzo came on. Enzo had to come on yesterday because things weren't going to plan. Comes on, scores a goal within a couple of minutes. Like, he's playing. Chelsea playing with 2 number 10s almost.
Yeah, they are.
Like, because Reece James is like, if Reece James is on with Caicedo, or Reece James is on with Lavia, if fit and he's back in the squad tomorrow, Lavia, he won't start. Then Enzo's the one of the midfield three that actually gets licensed. And you often look at it and go, Enzo and Palmer are in very similar positions. So
yeah. It's true, yeah. They're up against Leicester City. Ruud van Nistelrooy said they've taken advantage of this week. They've had 5 sessions, 5 days together to prepare for the game. And they've used every second they can to come up with a plan for this one. Sounds to me like they'll probably just park the bus. And then they'll just be as structured as they can and try to catch Chelsea out. Does Palmer have the nous to overcome something like that right now? If Leicester are going to go there and just try to frustrate them, like, do we trust Palmer in that situation, big man?
I think I would. I think, one of the listeners in the chat mentioned that, Liverpool might rotate and they weren't great against PSG. I do think that's a bit concerning now because they didn't all that good against PSG and now they have that fixture in like 3 days' time. It's a very short turnaround. And if we come to Arne Slot, he mentioned that, rotation could hit this week and he can rotate this week. If that is the case, do you think the Liverpool will blitz Southampton 4 or 5-0? I mean, I could see a win to nil, probably 3-0. Maybe just play Salah and take him off around the 70, 75-minute mark. That's the way I'm looking at it. I don't think it will be a cricket score, but Liverpool will win comfortably. 3-0 would be my prediction.
I don't know, because they've got a lot of players that also want to prove a point at the moment, Like, even if it's Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones, like, up against Southampton, they're so much better than any of those Southampton players. Who else do you think will start up front for Liverpool?
Darwin, if you want a 1 week punt, guys,
honestly,
Darwin Núñez is getting points tomorrow. Like, you can't do 1 week punts anymore because the bloody transfer rule has changed where you can roll up to 5. So 1 week punts, like we used to do it when we got to 2 free transfers, didn't know what to do. Guys, I'm telling you, sometimes here and now there's points up for grabs, and 1 week punts can still work with this version of the game.
Yeah, so like if I was to stay with Liverpool and I'm like, I've got my 2 assets, I've got my defender, I've got Salah, I'm not keeping Gakpo, I've got a load of transfers I can use if I want. Am I brave enough to go Darwin? Probably not, but there is an option to be had there. Obviously, like Jota and Luis Diaz probably going to get decent minutes too, but Harvey Elliott's the kind of wild card after coming on and scoring that goal against PSG. You would imagine that Harvey Elliott gets some decent minutes here and he'll be looking to take his opportunity. But yeah, I think... Go on.
Yeah, please go. Sure, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think I've just got to trust Salah over Palmer this week. If Palmer does me here, if Palmer ends up scoring a hat-trick against Leicester, I will be crying.
Well, let's do percentage chance then. Where are we all at? I'm going to start. I'll say I'm 70% still on Salah, 30% Palmer. And it is a 2-horse race for me. I'm not looking at anyone else. The chat is 77% on Salah. Big man, put numbers on it for those 2. I assume you're not looking at anyone but those 2.
I think it's a coin flip. It's a 50-50 legit.
Whoa, really? You are 50-50 on it?
I am. I genuinely am. I think it's a coin flip. And Dean mentioned that, if Palmer scores a hat-trick, he'll be crying. No one will captain Palmer. I mean, Palmer's effective ownership will not be over 100, 110%. There's no chance. Because of his form.
He's one of those sold players of the game week so far. He's being sold en masse, which is mental.
True.
Exactly. So even if he does well, it won't hurt you. But on the contrary, if Salah scores a hat-trick and Palmer blanks, then those who captain Palmer would be, they'd be down in the dumps. That's the risk that you're taking over there. Because I think it's a coin flip, I think it comes down to risk appetite. And if you're in the position where, let's say, you're protecting a mini league lead or you're protecting rank, I think you can go Salah. If you're chasing a big lead, I think this is the week to go different and go for Palmer. Yeah,
well, this is actually a dilemma for me, to be honest, because like I don't even know what my overall rank was, 500,000-ish, something like that, right? Which is it's fine, right? But it's also nothing. Like it's not something you're going to brag about. It's not something you're that disappointed about. And so that is the one part of me at the moment with this game is just like take some risks. And I do want to take some risks.
You do enough of them, mate. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, I know I do. But
you're captain the player that you think will get the most points.
Yeah, and that's why I did take a risk. I have taken a risk on Palmer, and he completely let me down. I got away with it because it was the 1 week when Salah didn't get any points. even in my position whereby I do want to make up some rank, I just don't think I'm willing to go to Palmer in this situation. I'm saying I'm 90% on Salah.
Okay, there we go. I like that. And big man, you're right. When you're 50-50, it comes down to a complete risk appetite. And everything big man said, I'm like, yeah, I want to back against Salah because that's me chasing, got the risk appetite.
Yeah.
The problem for me is it's not 50-50 for me. So I can't weigh it up. Like I have to go, who do I think is going to get more points? And I think Salah's going to get more points. So that conversation in my head, which I've backed against Salah the last 2 game weeks for captaincy. I went Isak, then I went Palmer. But that's because those weeks I thought the other player was going to get more points than Mo Salah. Or I was 50-50 and then my risk appetite came in. So yeah, I'll make a late call on the deadline, but I still think I'm 70% on Salah. Let's just briefly touch on the minutes of Salah in Ramadan. And then we've got a super chat on Liverpool. So we're going to talk more about Liverpool and Trent and Elliott and Curtis Jones in a sec. But look, many of you will be questioning this. This is from Let's Talk FPL's Twitter. And he's gone and done the research. Fair play. 24, 23, 22, and 2021. We've got usually... Well, God, in 2022, we had a ton of games in that period, which is mental. Like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. That is crazy for that 1st of April to the 1st of May in a month. I don't know if that's 100% right. I guess it is. I don't doubt Let's Talk FPL. But yeah,
it does seem a lot.
He does get substituted more. There's no doubt about it. Like rarely do you look at a 4-game sample size of Mo Salah and see 70, 25, 90 and 81. You just see 90, 90, 90 and maybe an 87. So you're going to get a higher chance of an earlier sub. The good news is the returns still look pretty good. And we have to bear in mind 2025 Ramadan is the best Mo Salah we've ever seen in terms of pure output at Liverpool. So again, you expect those numbers to be even further boosted. Big man, let me just come to you on this. You're observing Ramadan. You must consider footballers all the time. With like, where are you at with Salah's output during a month, which is clearly a huge impact on someone's routine?
I mean, I do observe Ramadan and I do fast regularly, but generally the first few days are difficult from personal experience. But once you sort of get into it, after the first 3 or 4 days, you sort of get into routine. It doesn't really bother you as much. And it sort of seems to me that with Salah, we sort of have this discussion every season. And it's just to build a narrative that, he underperforms during the specific month. But actually, when you look at the numbers, they're still very, very similar. And that sort of goes in with my theory that, after a few days, it does feel like normal. It's not a huge sort of difference between their performance and the numbers.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of narrative that comes with this is because a lot of us just don't understand what it feels like. And when people that do observe talk about it, they're like, oh, it's not really that big a deal for them. Like it's just part of their life and they know how to deal with it. And so, like Mo Salah, is there a more professional person to look after himself than Mo Salah? There's absolutely not. Like this guy knows everything there is to know about his body and how to get the best out of it. And yeah, if anything, I'd say he'd probably put in extra thought that makes him even more capable of being able to deal with a period like this. So I'm just beyond believing that this could affect a player like Mo Salah.
Yeah, nice. Good summary there, guys. Thanks for both your opinions. I think that's great. I think you've both echoed completely my thoughts. Like, don't overthink it. Guys, we did have a super chat on Liverpool, so let's just get to that. We're going to be showing our teams. We've got Against the Obvious. We're going to be answering your questions all in the next half an hour. Do not go anywhere. And guys, if you're enjoying the show, we would love your support. We are on a mission at Chasing Green Arrows to get to 10,000 subs. And we would really like to get to 10,000 subs by the end of April. That's our target, right? Can we get there in the next 7 weeks? Today, to celebrate the fact that hopefully we get a good handful of subs, we'll be giving away 5 free memberships to 5 people that subscribe, right? So you've got to be subscribed. So hit that button if you want to win a membership. Hit that like button as well. Matty Kenyon, thank you for your super chat and all your super chats. If we don't answer them straight away, we'll always answer them within a 20-minute window. This game, would you pair? Would you have Nunes and Sarr? I'm going to come to you on this one, big man, or Nketiah or Curtis Jones? So one Liverpool and then one Palace. It depends on your chip strategy, Matty. If you're looking at 1 week punts, that might be a different answer. But big man, give us your kind of forget chip strategy if you can. Who are the 2 better players to back?
It's difficult to say because with draft you have to pick nailed players, and I think Sarr is probably the only one out of the 3 that's going to play most games.
Draft league. Sorry. Yeah.
It's a draft league. So I would probably lean towards the Sarr and Nunes combo. We have already talked up Darwin in the stream already. And if he does get a few games here and there, which we assume he will actually get more game time till the end of the season, because there will be games for Liverpool now with the title close to being wrapped up that they can afford to play him a lot more than they have actually.
Yeah, nice. I've just brought in Jones into my draft league this week. And I owned Darwin Núñez in my draft league earlier this season. Because you can bench players, and on weeks when you think they'll start, you can chuck them in. I don't mind the sort of rotation risks at top clubs. So yeah, good thinking. Thanks for the super chat. Dean, Trent Alexander-Arnold, we're just going to touch on that as our last Liverpool point. A lot own him. He's not necessarily a minutes monster or a fitness monster like Mo Salah, but he's not got any injury issues. Bradley is out. It is 3 games in 6 days, or 7 days, with a Tuesday, Wednesday turnaround. He didn't go off with 5 minutes to go like Mo Salah did. He played 90 in the week, Trent. We were all expecting him to start, right?
Yeah, I mean, because there's if Bradley was fit, I think that Bradley starts this game for sure. But obviously, there's still options there, and people talk about others that can come in. But Gomez has been struggling, obviously, with the hamstring too. I think that this is a game where you weigh it up, and Trent's probably fine to play against this team. And again, he'll be an early sub if he does play, but I don't think Slot's going to be risking too much here in terms of like a mass change. He's talked today about the fact that if he had a bit longer, he'd have played the exact same 11 all over again. He said, I do have to rotate some players for this game. Like he said he's going to do that. But I don't think Trent's one of them, if I'm totally honest. Let us know in the chat what you think. A few are coming in with the replies already. Max says Liverpool are going to rest Konaté before Trent, and they don't have the bodies to rest both. Don't say that. I've got Konaté in my team. Is he going to be rested?
I think there's a good chance, actually, Dean. I can see maybe Kwanzaa getting a game.
Lads, he's going to play centre back or right back, Kwanzaa, isn't he? He's going to play for Konaté or Trent. He has to start Kwanzaa.
I'm going to have to free hit. I'm going to have about half a team by the end of this show. Baragaz said he'll get 70 minutes and he'll probably go off at 4-0 up. Kwanzaa to come on. Lewis says Endo could play centre back. I mean, I just don't think that there's any chance that Slot gets that risky. Like,
how do you think Kwanzaa feels if Enzo plays centre back? You might as well ask for a transfer request in the summer if Kwanzaa's on the bench and Enzo plays centre back.
But Endo is like such a professional, and like Slot's talked about the fact that like what he was kind of slating Núñez a couple of weeks ago, and he was about like the level that you need to constantly be at. He used Endo as his example of like he's just so consistent in terms of like every training session. He's ready. But he's ready for nothing because he never gets used. So great professional. Can't see it happening. Nikolai reckons that Trent starts. The only change is that Tsimikas comes into defence. Mark says, does Kelleher get a start? I mean, Alisson doesn't need resting, does he? I mean, unless his hands are sore from all of the saves that he made the other day, I don't see that he's going to need to leave Alisson out the team.
This is still the Premier League. Like, we're not talking about the Haribo Cup here. Like, where you put your second choice keepers.
It's a little bit with Southampton sometimes.
I know, and they are clearing away, and they're going to win the league. But I think Slot even said today in his press conference, like, it's one game at a time. This is the most important game. Like, I know clearly it's not, but he's taking it seriously, and there'll be rotation, but not in the goalkeeper spot. Tsimikas will be probably the only one.
I think people are a bit sort of overreacting to how much rotation there will be. I mean, 11 players won't get rotated. Sure, there will be changes, but I'd expect like 3 to 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Curtis Jones, Tsimikas, Darwin, they start.
Harvey
But
Elliott
other
will
than that,
probably
like
start.
Szoboszlai finally gets a rest.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're the four that I see that probably come into this game. Tsimikas, Elliott, Jones, and Nunes. Like that's probably the four. Look, we might be caught out by one more. We might be. That's a situation that we'll have to deal with. But Faith says goalies barely move. They don't need a rest.
If you've listened to Dean's podcast, Ranks FC guys, you'll know he's got a funny thing about goalkeepers.
I don't always class goalkeepers as footballers. That is true, but I'm not going to be saying anything negative about Alisson after the performance we've just seen him put in midweek. It was a super show, but he needs to go in front of Anfield and get his plaudits for that, and also make sure that he's sharp for the second leg in a few days' time.
Nikolai says Szoboszlai's Forrest Gump in disguise. I'll give you that. And he's not only great for all the running stats, but in terms of speed, he's Liverpool's, I think, fastest player by kilometres per hour, which you wouldn't necessarily think. Right, let's do our teams. Let's do our teams against the obvious questions. Got loads to get through because I need your help, guys. So I want to do at least 5 minutes on each person's team. Dean's going to need some help. Big man, I think you're quite chill about your team because you might still be looking at just that one transfer. Although you've got Dango, and I think Dango, we got to talk about him because Dango, guys, as I said on Monday and Wednesday, and now everyone's coming to terms with it. He ain't going to start. Like, he's a sell. It's a hard sell for me. But let's get to everyone's teams and have a look. Who we got first? Dean, you're up. Oh, you've got Kluivert. See, me and Big Man would love Kluivert.
Yeah, I mean, Kluivert is a decent one to have for this week for sure. Because I'm, also not sure what Tottenham are going to do in terms of their lineup because the Europa is 100% their priority at the moment. So I think Kluivert is what I'm happy with. Kirkes for the same reasons, but Konate, I'm now told is going to be a risk. So slightly concerned about that. And my bench, I mean, the only one really, I mean, would I bring Pickford in for Henderson? Possibly, but Henderson at home to Ipswich.
Wait, what are you doing in 29? Just for anyone watching, your moves this week, you will be influenced by 29. So, for example, because Konate's not got a fixture in 29, if you're not free hitting in 29 or wildcarding in 29, it would make sense to get rid of Liverpool players anyway because you can't have them next week.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right?
But
I'm interested to know your feelings on this because I have three transfers. I have 3 transfers already. I've got a free hit to use. I've got a wild card, and I've got the assistant manager chip coming up.
Yeah.
So obviously, the assistant manager has to hit those doubles.
32 and 33, or 31, 32, 33.
So it'll probably come in 31. So my team needs to be set up in 30 for that.
Yeah, you could wildcard in 30, mate. You could be looking at 2 in 30. Big man, what would you suggest?
So do I use the transfers or do I use the free hit or do I save the free hit? Yes, because also what would happen with I'd save my transfers, right? They'd just roll over.
Yeah. The week you hit the free hit button, though, or the wildcard button, you don't get a transfer that week rolled over. But all your others roll over. Yeah.
What do you do, Big man?
Dean, I think I don't think your team needs a free hit. Firstly, you're sort of relatively well set up without having to use the chip because you have a sub keeper in Pickford. You have Dean. You have double Bournemouth. So the team is relatively well set. I think you can probably afford to save a transfer this week, and then with next week, I think I would probably go a bit gung-ho and use 3 of my 4 save transfers. But I think this should stand true for a lot of teams that unless you're absolutely forced to, I don't think this is a week where you should be making transfers because
I'm taking a hit.
I mean, you're again. I mean, I said that unless you're absolutely forced to, your team is decimated, mate. So your situation is different, right? But for a lot of other people, who because a lot of people have used transfers in the previous doubles and they don't exactly have the flexibility of a lot of free transfers. I think free transfers will be very, very crucial in the weeks to come, and Dean will be in a very good position with 4 free transfers. So I think it's a save for me.
Nice. And was this the lineup you would use, or is there any temptation for a Luca Dean or anything like that?
Yeah, you can play Dean over Kirkez. I think both teams will concede though, so it won't really matter as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Henderson is actually interesting. I see Everton possibly sneaking a win to nil or maybe a 0-0 draw with no Cunha and the Wolves team. I think that's going to be a game with not many goals. And Crystal Palace at home are generally leaky, so I would actually expect Palace to concede. But I guess if you look at the bookmaker odds, etc., they are in the favor of Henderson. But yeah, I mean, I have a very similar dilemma where I'm playing Pickford, but I still have Mykolenko on the bench, and it doesn't exactly sit right with me. But it's a decision that I have to make.
Yeah,
I'm starting both of those.
Yeah,
I have to start all my fit players.
Lewis says, "Got to go Henderson home game." There was a game week about a few weeks ago when all the away teams won. Like home games just don't fill me with the confidence that they used to fill.
There was an article the other day about it's the most amount of away wins we've seen in Premier League history or something. Like
it's all kind of gone out the window this season.
But Henderson has got the better fixture. I agree. I'd go there. But I mean, you've got someone like Konate is great. He's either going to start and get a clean sheet, or he's not going to play at all. So you've got the likes of Luka Dean and even
True, like hopefully that proves.
I'd be tempted to chuck Gakpo into your 11, mate, just in case.
Would you?
I mean, if he doesn't start, he probably does
start him instead of Rodgers or something. Or
he probably does get half an hour if he doesn't start. But if he gets half an hour against Southampton, I still kind of like.
It's not a bad gamble, actually, yeah, because if he really isn't fit and he just doesn't play at all, it doesn't really matter, does it? And Rodgers could just come back in. The thing with Aston Villa players, they don't tend to do that well after European aways. Like
they really struggle.
They've struggled all season with that. So, yeah, that's a good shout. I quite like that.
Brentford do give you chances, though. I was looking at the worst defences in the league, and in terms of big chances against them and shots against them, like Brentford, I know we're always impressed with them because they're goals, but you have to weigh up at some point. Brentford are one of the best attacks in the league, yet they're mid-table. Why is that? Because they're also one of the worst defences in the league. So I always like the likes of Rodgers playing against the Brentford. I always fancy a goal, but yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Nice. Okay, good stuff.
Make sure to change your vice captain just in case.
Oh yeah, good shout.
Yeah. There we go. Let's move on. I think we've got Bigman's team next. I think it usually is. It's always the same order. Yeah.
Is it? Yes, it is. Good shout.
There we go.
I never know.
So Bigman, who are you selling? Because on Wednesday you said maybe a roll, but I'm thinking you need to sell Dango.
I think for all the reasons that I mentioned with the information that we'll get with the fixture scheduling and all, I want to be in a position where I have that extra free transfer at hand. So next week, Erling Haaland will come in my team no matter what. I think it's very unlikely that I don't go for Haaland. And it's very likely going to be facilitated through a Salah downgrade as well. And if I am to make those transfers, I need to have the security of another free transfer in case there's an injury, or in case if I want to make that transfer next week or at some point later. Ideally would want to use it later with the information available. So I think Dango and João Pedro are minutes risks. I acknowledge the risk. And I realize that they might not start. But then again, they're cheap. If they're playing, then there's no reason to sell them. And without any concrete evidence to suggest that either of them has fully lost their position in the team, I'm willing to take the chance because it's not as if the alternatives are great either. So if they play this week, the fixtures are great. I think there's upside if they play. So I will roll. I think the decision for me this week will be between Salah and Palmer, and that's a decision I will think long and hard about.
Oh, mate, but Dango is going to play, but he's not starting. You'll get in 20 minutes.
It's not guaranteed. I think there's a chance he starts on the left.
You're right. There is a chance. There is a chance. There is a chance. I get it, because if he does, it is a great fixture.
My point is, if he is playing on the left, because I'm wildcarding in a couple of weeks' time anyway, I might just wing it and play him for Spurs and Brentford Ipswich.
Start Mykolenko over Dango? Play a back 4-4-2? Tempted?
I can't bring myself to do that. I have thought about it. Mykolenko is my first sub, by the way. So
yeah,
I can't. Even though I do think they're
over Dango.
well.
Interesting.
You're very anti-Dango.
I know.
I realize you don't. I still realize you don't. You don't share the same sentiment about Pedro, though. Joao Pedro.
I think he probably starts.
You reckon so?
I think
Yeah,
Rutter
it's
starts.
tough. I think
it's either him or Welbeck, isn't it?
I reckon Pedro starts.
I'm just hoping I get one start out of the
Evan
two.
Ilson starts after such a long layoff. Evan Ilson played 7 days ago, mate. Come on, Sean. You can play 2 games in a week. You can play every week. He's been back. This is his 4th game back. First game back, didn't get off the bench. Second game back, got 10 minutes. Third game back, got 67 minutes. 4th game back, a week after that, he can get another 67, can't he?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. We've got Against the Obvious coming up, guys, and we got 5 minutes of my team. Plus, we want to do your questions. Thank you all for watching. Really enjoying the show today. Hope you are too. And hope you enjoy our difference of opinions. We're not all here to give you the same point of view. So hopefully you enjoy the chat as always. The chat has split too. Like half the chat are saying Dango definitely starts, Roger. Others are being like, he'll play but deeper, and others don't think he'll start at all. So yeah. No one knows. No one knows. Sammy says, could easily see Tavernier play the Kluivert role and Kluivert play 90 most games. Yeah, maybe. Kluivert's done so well. Crown says, Evan Nilsson striker, Dango left wing, Kluivert, Cam, Semenyo right wing, Brooks will be dropped. The only thing is with that, Crown, it means Brooks and Tavernier both dropped. I think it's one of those two in the 11 and no Dango. But yeah, that's what Big Man's thinking too. Semenyo right, Dango left is an option. Okay, this is my team. Boy, is it bad. Boy, is it bad. As things stand, I'm taking a 4-point hit to sell Dango and Hall. That gets me 11. But you can see at the moment, I'm on 9 if we assume Dango's not starting. Rico Lewis won't start. If Isak doesn't play, I get 10 regardless because you can't play a 5-5 formation, or I would. So who do I replace these two with? I'll tell you one right now. Ismail Assar's 99% coming into my team for Dango. I want a Palace midfielder. It makes sense on my chip strategy to back Crystal Palace because no one else can because they're buying players that play in 29. So I get Ipswich and Southampton, but I get the blank with the free hit. Do I go Eze and spend the extra? I have got the money to. But I just think that then limits me moving forward when I upgrade Cunha to Haaland. So Ismail Assar in for Dango. It gives me 5.8, 5.7 to spend on a defender and then do my preferred moves of Cunha to Haaland and Palmer to a 5 million mid, let's say Minter, which is another 4-point hit in game week 30. By then, Haaland's going to have gone up in price quite a bit because the world and their dog are buying Haaland in 29. So I don't know exactly how much money I need to leave in the bank, but it's not what we're currently at. I'm going to assume Haaland has 2 price rises before I buy him in 30. So who do I sell Hall for? Palace and Newcastle make sense for me because they... Sorry, I'm taking a while on this, but hopefully it's interesting.
I think your team needs another hour of discussion.
Don't say it. Don't say I need a wild card. I'm not doing it.
Many flags.
I know. But I can do a 4-point hit in 28. A 4-point hit in 30, and then I'm fine. It's -8, but then I keep my blank game week 29 free hit. So Lewis Hall, I would love to go Gvardiol, but if I do that, I'm so restricted with my Haaland plan. So I've probably got to buy either a Palace mid and not go Sarr because I've already got 2 Palace, or I go a Newcastle defender. Sorry, a Palace defender or a Newcastle defender. Other options, 8 Nori, I also like. Timber at 5.6, I could reach. I don't have Arsenal defence. I could go Timber. But is Ben White going to start getting some game time? If he does Timber go to left back? Or does Timber get benched? Or does Timber just stay in the 11? Big man, answer all those questions in a minute and then Dean try and do the same.
I mean, looking at this team, honestly, I think you should keep Dango. I mean, there's so many bigger priorities in the team to address. You're selling Dango because you think he doesn't start, but there's a chance he does, right? And I think it does seem like a luxury transfer.
Yeah, but Ismail Assar's got Ipswich and Southampton.
Yeah, that's fine. But if Dango does well this week, he's got Brentford at home and Ipswich at home next week. You need to be absolutely 100% sure that Dango's lost his spot for the next 3 to be in a position to make that transfer. But anyway, if you're making it, then I think, Holt or Guardiola would have been ideal. Which other defenders have you considered? Have you looked at Ait Nouri? Because Wolves have a decent stretch of fixtures as well. And I think you'd possibly look at Ait Nouri as well.
Yeah, so I'm going. Yeah, so I just mentioned it was Palace defenders, Newcastle defenders, Gvardiol and Ait Nouri. Palace and Newcastle get me an extra fixture because they double in 32. And I'm not wildcarding till 34, remember? So I get an extra fixture if I buy Dan Burn or Mark Gahey. But forget the extra fixture. I want some clean sheets. So Ait Nouri, good. I can afford Timber, just. Gvardiol I'm going to rule out because it limits me so much with my Haaland plan.
You can't get a Palace defender though, because if you're getting Sarr, then you already have triple Palace.
Yeah.
Right?
So no, it would be if I didn't go Sarr, it'd be a Palace defender, which I'm so big on Palace scoring goals. They're going to win 3-0 against Ipswich and 3-0 against Southampton.
You could go Semenyo and Mitchell maybe. That's an option. Or alternatively, you could go with Sarr and Burn. I actually like Burn now that I know the defense is a bit decimated with injuries, etc. But that means that Burn will absolutely play. Botman is injured, Lewis Hall is out, all these guys. So there's no chance that Dan Burn doesn't play the rest of the games. He's actually going to be a cheap route into the Newcastle defense, and one I think I will very likely get on wildcard. I think
by Dan Burn. Yeah.
I think if you fast forward a few weeks from now, you would probably want Newcastle defender in the team, and I think Dan Burn does sort of fill that bill perfectly. Because irrespective of their injuries in their defense, you look at the fixtures they have: home to Palace, home to United. I think they're going to keep a clean sheet in that double.
Yeah, it's a good double. Livramento's an option. He could be playing left back with trips at right back. I just want Burn for the 90-minute guarantee, which Livra doesn't get. Where are you at with defenders? Ait Nouri, Burn, and Ismail Assar.
Yeah, Ait Nouri would probably be where I'd be going in terms of those options. It's interesting what's coming in on the chat for your team. Actually, there's such mixed opinion. Sarr this week is a great pick, and then we straight away the next comment: Sarr inconsistency of returns is a problem. Sammy says, could you punt on Nketiah, especially on a free hit 29?
Yeah, I could, but for 1 week only. It'd be Nketiah for a week, and then Nketiah becomes Haaland. So I'd sell Cunha to Nketiah or Darwin for 1 week, and then replace Darwin or Nketiah with Haaland in 30. Yeah,
exactly. Even Dango off the bench against Spurs, worth keeping, is one comment that comes in. But then Derek says the cherries have cooled off a little bit. I'm benching Dango this week. Everyone is very, very conflicted this week. It's a really tough game week. There's no correct answer for you here, mate. You've got to go with your gut. And if you're happy to take the -4, then it seems you're going to go down that route. You're on mute, mate.
Sorry. Other option is I do that Cunha move and I go, let's play a back 3, just bench Hall for now. Mikolenko, Trent, Munoz. I keep Dango and I go Cunha to Darwin for 1 week, and then Darwin becomes Haaland in 30. Because Cunha's going to become Haaland. That spot is Haaland in 30. I could have fun for a week before the free hit and go.
I would do that. That's more fun and there's more upside to it.
There is a lot of upside to it. Big man, your take on the idea of punting in an Nketiah or a Darwin for a week? I know 1 week transfers are kind of dead, but
I just don't think you have that luxury personally, because if you're not wildcarding, you can't afford to get 1 week transfers. You have to have a team for the long run, and
I want the points up for grabs now, though. Forget transfers at -4 if your player is going to come and get 12 points. But
I would actually be very tempted by Chris Wood in your position, Gianni. I genuinely think I would do Cunha to Wood in your position rather than Dango to Sarr.
But Cunha's going to be Haaland in 30. So that would be Wood for 1 week. Seems pointless.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? Because he's Cunha as your route to Haaland. That's the issue. Because my route to Haaland will be Salah. It's completely different. You're set and start selling Palmer. I assume a lot of people will be doing similar. So that's fine, I guess. Then I just think you just go with your gut then and just keep loading up on Palace and Newcastle. I think the big gain that you will make now, I think because of the way things have shaped out and with your strategy, the big gains that you will make now will be in game week 29 and in game week 32. In 32, because of the doublers that you'll have, and in game week 29 because of the free hit. So I think you need to just go all in on those 2 weeks in particular.
Yeah.
So if you're going all in on those 2 weeks, get Palace and Newcastle players. So for example, if you're not sure about a defender, just get Dan Burn in, load up on that double.
And that's where I'm at. Like I've been going all in on this for weeks to the point where I've got Mateta and Hall, and it's so annoying that Mateta and Hall now aren't bloody playing. So yeah, I think I continue. It's Sarr and it's Burn very lightly for me. And it is a 4-point hit.
70-30 still.
Say again.
Captain 70-30 Salah.
Yeah. Do you know what? Having Enzo makes Salah a little bit easier. Like Palmer points are going to be could be assisted, or Enzo could be involved in those moves. So that helps a little bit. I think I'll end up on Salah, but let's see. I also think Southampton are worse than Leicester. I know they're both bad, but Southampton are really bad. All right, that's enough of my team. Guys, thank you for all your input. Like, clearly, there's no right and wrong here. My team's a mess. Right, let's get to Against the Obvious, shall we? This is a bit of fun, guys. We're going to do 60 seconds each on why we should not pick a player. Guys, hit those buttons. We would love you to subscribe to Chasing Green Arrows. We're going to give away 5 channel memberships in the next 7 minutes. But to win a membership, you've got to be subscribed. Right, Against the Obvious.
Let's go. Oh, who's this?
Now this is me. So I've picked Against the Obvious in Rodgers. I think despite the goal that he scored last week, I think we're sort of now getting to a time where his time is coming to an end in our teams for the rest of the season. I realize that he's been an excellent enabler. He's done good things for a lot of us. But I just think with the blank coming up and with so many other midfielders that appeal, the likes of, let's say, Semenyo, if you're not free hitting in 29, or if you're free hitting in 29, you could potentially get someone like an Eze or a Sarr like Gianni is doing. I think because of those options that you have, I think you probably need to resign yourself to lose Rodgers. Not necessarily this week, because this week could be a fixture where he does well, even though Villa don't do all that well after the Champions League. But definitely next week, I think Rodgers, his time is up and he is someone that needs to go.
Interesting. Asensio playing number 10. Rodgers probably inside right. Will be interesting.
Yeah. It's a difficult one to know when his points are coming as well, Rodgers. I think he's great, but from an FPL perspective, he really does cause headaches. Even this week, I don't know what to do with him. But yeah, Colm says Rodgers is a Champions League player. Yeah, fair shout, mate. Fair shout. This must be you, Duke.
Oh, did I say Bowen? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Jared Bowen. I just have trust issues. Let's start that clock with the West Ham attack. Like the underlying numbers so far since Potter's been there haven't been brilliant. And I know like all things align with that West Ham attack. Everything goes through Jared Bowen. But if the team aren't going to be scoring goals, and I'm not so sure they will score a ton of goals, I'm not sure Jared Bowen is worth that sort of money. And a lot of people are talking about him that they'll bring him in on wild card. West Ham, yes, do have good fixtures. But what we remember from Potter, both at Brighton and Chelsea, was his teams don't actually score much. Like they should score more than they do. They're easy on the eye. But the XGI of Bowen last game week against Leicester, we all fancied him against Leicester, 0.15 XGI, XG 0.08. Like he didn't have a sniff against one of the worst teams in the league. Yes, Palmer blanked versus Southampton last time out, but at least we see like the 1+ XG and go, oh, I was unlucky. Bowen's just maybe not going to get the chances moving forward. At that price point, I think there's far better options.
Yeah, like I mean, I had to say, like I was tinkering with my team yesterday, just being like, if I was to like free hit or something this week, who would I go for? And Bowen kept cropping up in my team, but then I push him out again. I was really conflicted with Bowen about where he sits, but I think you've summed that up pretty well as to where we probably should be on it right now. Mainly, we just can't trust West Ham because we don't know what a West Ham is yet. So
I've got with my free hit 29 though. Bowen does play Everton, so maybe I'll be tempted next week. Let's see.
That's fine. Right, I'll wrap things up with Sir Erling Haaland. Here we go then. I mean, look, unless you're going to captain him, then you just don't bring him in yet. I think that there will be some temptation for people at the moment to kind of jump the gun and be like, everyone else is bringing Haaland in the next couple of weeks. Why don't I bring him in a week earlier, if I can, for Nottingham Forest away? Well, Nottingham Forest are just not a team that you really want to be testing that theory with. Forest's last home game was against Arsenal, 0-0, right? Their game, they haven't had another home game for a little while, actually, before that. But the one before that, Nottingham Forest won it 7-0 against Brighton. This is a stadium where you're not really going and scoring many goals. Even Liverpool went there in the middle of January, only scored 1 goal. Given Erling Haaland's upside this season hasn't really come that much. A 13-pointer about 6 weeks ago is about as good as we've seen. That's not worth it unless you're going to captain the guy. And I don't think people are really needing to go there right now.
Nice. Yeah, no one's captain versus Forest, are they?
I don't think
guys,
so.
We'll get some quick fire questions in. Actually, no, yeah, we will. We've got to do the channel memberships there as well. So we'll do a couple of questions and then we'll do channel memberships. Remember, to win a membership, which gets you extra content, you've got to hit that subscribe button. Is going against Parma. This one's for you, big man, and Salah Madness this week. Vissa or Mbermo for captaincy?
Yeah, I think if you're going against Salah, you just go for Palmer. I think going against both is taking a risk too many.
Agreed. Really, it's a two-horse race. One for you, Dean. Rodgers versus João Pedro. Who would you start? Wow, that's a tough one.
That is a really tough one. And actually, I would go João Pedro.
Guys, there's some comments in the chat about price drops. Just to know, if you do own Cunha and you do own Lewis Hall, my 2 transfers out this week, possibly. No, it's probably not. One of them, Hall. He does good. They both go down in price tonight. Who do I bench? Wood, Issa. Too difficult. Sorry, guys. Toss a coin. No one cares for the rest of the chat.
Rodgers replacement in that price bracket. We mentioned Semenyo.
Yeah, Semenyo's for sure. Minter's a nice differential.
Yeah, I think Semenyo is the one, though. I agree on that one. I think as a lot of Semenyo being overlooked at the moment, and I think it's good if you can get there. Bench one of Kluivert, Wood, or Rodgers. It'd be Rodgers for me out of those ones, given the fixtures this week. Well, I know Wood's up against Man City, but Man City isn't as much of a scare off as it used to be.
I think Chalobah could have an injury. Just check that, Derek. But I like Mikolenko for a clean sheet this week. But yeah, if Chalobah's fit, then start him for sure. One for you, big man.
I've got Wood and Wissa with 1.4 million. Who is my Mateta replacement? It's tricky. I'd probably go for. I mean, if you can afford to bench him, I think I would. If you have the luxury of, let's say, 7 other playable attackers, I would bench him. But if not, then you could probably go with Beto.
I mean, yeah, Cunha's going to be on your bench for a long time, Nabadeep, so I'd consider selling Cunha and playing good Cunha replacement this week. Sell Gakpo or Mateta. Wow. Good question, this. We'll quickly do this. Our top 3 replacements, and then we're going to give away the membership. So our top 3 budget forwards, effectively.
I mean, budget forwards, I still like Strand Larsen as a Cunha replacement in the game. So I think Strand Larsen, given he's got Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich next, is actually a good pick that just no one's going for. Beto is an obvious one. And then Evan Nielsen probably ahead of João Pedro, that's true.
And at mid-price, big man, with Gakpo, Mateta price points, Chris Wood, Marmoush.
Yeah, Marmoush is a tricky one. I think he's nailed for sure. But I don't think I would pick him over Haaland if that's the question. I think I would definitely go with Haaland.
I think I'm the same, Zubin. Guys, I'll do a couple of quick fire questions after this, but memberships, spam the chat in the next 60 seconds.
Yeah, let's go.
In the next 60 seconds, 5 of you will win a channel membership. So it goes to 5 people in the chat. randomly. So spam away, and then in 60 seconds time, I'll do a couple more Q&A and let these two go because I was late to show. So get spamming away. And guys, to win a membership, you got to do two things. You got to like and you got to subscribe. It's that simple and that quick.
Go.
Love that. This massively helps the algorithm. We should get people to this for like 10 minutes.
Just sit here. We just sit here while people just hit random.
If you watch
letters.
one of Andy's deadline streams, this is what the chat looks like for hours. It's mad.
Is it really?
I mean,
That's
not
funny.
quite this fast, but it's
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, are you stupid? Like, do you really think he's going to answer one of your questions? like,
yeah.
If you put a super chat on it, yeah, he will.
But yeah, he's not going to see
I do
it.
the same. Nothing on Andy,
absolutely.
who's a friend of mine.
Thanks everyone. That looks good. We can start going for this, I think.
You'll see him come in any second, guys. There we go. Congrats if you won. Jamie won. FPL Down Under won. Love that. FPL Down Under. And Heather. Oh, a couple of my channel members won there. I'm 9074 as well. There we go. Guys, good luck this game week. I'm going to say goodbye to Big Man and Dean. I'm going to stay on and do a couple of questions, guys. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. But Big Man and Dean, we'll see you soon. Good luck this game
mate.
week.
See you, Big Man. Good luck, everyone. Cheers.
Okay, guys, I'm going to answer as many questions as I can in 60 seconds. Let's go. Oh, Salah. I'm just going to answer the second bit of that because I'm going fast paced. Go Salah, I think. And I'll do any question that's not a benching dilemma. Sorry, guys. Best Gordon replacement. Oh, good question. I like the Palace mids, Eze or Sarr. Or Semenyo. Better pick from game week 29. Marmoush or Wood? Probably still Wood. Roll if you can this week. Absolutely. Best Dango replacements. I mean, I like Minter at Brighton at the same price point. If not, then if you can afford Semenyo, do. Probably sell Gakpo, given he's not playing next week. Chance he does play tomorrow, but either bench him or sell him. I know I'd sell him. If you've got him and you're not selling him, probably start him. Cunha replacement with 0 in the bank. Ooh. I'm going to say Evan Nilsson, go down. Save some money. Is Darwin worth it? Yes, he is. If you're looking for a 1 week punt, Darwin is getting points versus Southampton, I think. Hudson for 29, a good pick. Off the bench? No, I don't think so. Guys, thank you so much. That was loads of fun. I will see you on Monday. Check out Chasing Green Arrows. We do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Dean's the journo. Big Man's former world number 4. I'm the presenter. Hopefully you've seen enough from this show to think about hitting those buttons. I've said it a lot today, and we're doing a slight subscriber drive because, quite frankly, we're embarrassed not to be on 10,000 subs. We want to get there. You can help us get there. Sorry to shove it down your throats, but please hit those buttons and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Take care. Bye-bye.